I built this for my oldest daughter, and I built that for my son. So when I built the decorative display shelf, my third-born naturally thought it was hers. So I hung it on her wall, and she was a happy camper. It's a nice shelf, but I think we can do one better. One worthy of a little girl's room. So I got me a couple of 1x8s and a circular saw crosscut jig. My miter saw doesn't have the capacity to handle a board this wide. That's why I built this jig. Now I mark out my board lengths and take one over to the jig. A board this long requires a little extra support to keep it from flopping around. Nothing a scrap piece won't fix. That's better. Now that mark just gets lined up with the edge of the rail. If you want to see how I built this jig, here you go. Click right up there. Now, I know you're curious, so I'll tell you. A materials and cut list can be found on my website, and you can take them with you right out to the workshop on your mobile device, just like you see me doing. Surf over to simplyeasydiy.com, and there you will find all the design plans that I happen to have. Just click on the one that you want, and there you have them. The materials, the cut list, along with the cutting diagrams and the step-by-step instructions right at your fingertips with nothing to print out. Couldn't have made it more simple or easy. So after verifying my measurements on the website, I'll finish cutting my boards to length. Some of these boards I'm gonna cut a little longer than the final measurements that I need. The reason for that is because I have to cut angles on one end of a few of them. Whoa, whoa! Don't freak out on me. I have a video dedicated solely to explaining the steps that I take to cut boards to length with angles. If you want to see that one, here you go. First, I'm going to adjust my blade and cut the angle. Then I'll flip that board over so that the long end is up and mark for my final measurement. Put that board aside for the moment and cut another angle into a second board. Then I'm just going to repeat those steps for all the boards that I need angles in. Now I'll bring my cross-cut jig back out and cut each of those boards to their final length. And I'm just going to check to make sure that I've got what I need. Now I can start routing some dados. The bottom and middle shelves need a corresponding dado, so I'll line those up next to each other and flush the ends. Measure and mark. Make sure nothing moved. Set my straight edge. Now I can flip the middle shelf over and set the bottom one aside for now. Measure and mark the dado for the top divider. Clean those dados up just a little bit. I can start assembly now. Some glue. Then the bottom divider goes in place. To make sure these two shelves stay parallel, I'll use a couple right angle clamps before applying the straight clamps. Now, don't do what I did and make sure your dados are snug, but not too snug. I'm having to use clamps to set them. That's just a little bit too tight. Now I can set that assembly aside and route the dados into the side pieces. Clean my workspace up just a little bit. Because you know what they say, cleanliness is next to godliness. Lay my two sides out. Bring in the shelf assembly. If your dados fit properly, you won't need to do that. Once it's dry, I'll pick that up and attach the second shelf divider. Let's set that on the floor. Dry fit my pieces just to get an idea of how this should go. And apply some glue. When I set the roof pieces in place, the wet glue should provide enough hold for now to get the band clamp in place. The trick here is to not apply too much pressure with the band clamp. Just enough to snug things up, but not warp anything. Then I can drill for dowels at each of the mating points. A smaller diameter drill bit makes the pilot hole for the larger bit to follow. Flush cut everything along with a little sanding. I like to use keyholes to attach my projects whenever practical. This shelf presented a slight problem, however, of how to get those keyholes drilled with such a narrow back piece to work with. So to get around that, I clamped a couple scrap 2x material to each side to give my plunge router a more stable base to slide on. Then I used my straight edge clamp along with a framing square to make sure the keyholes would be even on both sides. The rest, I just decided to freehand. Now, if you've never done keyholes before, I'd recommend a few practice runs before attempting freehand versions. Not too bad. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and don't forget to smash the thumbs up or thumbs down button. Don't forget to check me out on Facebook and Pinterest, and leave a comment down below. Until then.